Welcome to the Grade 9 English Language class of St. Peter's College, Colombo 4, Negombo branch. So today I'm going to do an important English grammar lesson for you all. This is somewhat very simple, but there are some certain areas where you need to be competent, and then there are some certain points which you need to know accurately. So this lesson is based on competency level 6.10. Uses the conditional clauses appropriately. So when you say conditional clauses, you must be aware of these words before as well. But first, I'll brief you out the background of this lesson. So when you use this word conditional clause, we can divide this section into two sections, condition and clause. So before I move on to this condition and clause, I'll first brief you out with the background. So you know there are 26 letters of the alphabet. So out of these letters, we can divide into two sections, vowels and consonants. So with the help of the vowels and the consonants, we make words. So children, by picking up different words, we can make sentences. So what are the main features of a sentence? A sentence begins with a capital letter, ends up with an end punctuations. So you all know there are three end punctuations: full stop, question mark, and the exclamation mark. So, and then there should be a subject, verb, and an object. So likewise, that is called, with all these functions, it is called as a sentence. So other than these sentences, there are these clauses and the phrases. So now here you come across the word clause. Conditional clause. The second part is called clause. So what is this clause? A clause is a group of words. A clause is a group of words which gives you some kind of an idea, but not a fully complete meaning. It's just giving you some kind of an idea. Does not begin with a capital letter, nor ends up with an end punctuation. Doesn't start with a capital letter and no end punctuation, but gives you some kind of an idea. The difference between the phrase and the clause is, in the phrase there is no verb. For an example, if I say, in the sky, in is a preposition, the is an article, sky is a noun. So there is no verb. Just a group of words gives you some kind of a meaning, in the sky, but not a fully complete meaning. So clauses, there is a verb. That is the difference between a phrase and a clause. Right? So that is how it flows. So now we are moving on. Now you know what this clause is. Now we are moving on to this condition part. What is the meaning of condition? You are applying a condition. In order to get a certain result, you are applying a condition. For an example, if I say, if you study hard, so I am putting a condition. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. If you practice well, you will be selected for the team. Something like that. Right? So you are giving a condition to the sentence. So that is called condition and the clause. So now we are moving on to the structure. Conditional sentences. The conditional sentence is mainly composed of two sections. When you say a conditional sentence, a sentence with a condition, there are two parts. One part is called the if clause, where the condition holds. If clause, you call it as a conditional clause as well. If clause or conditional clause. Why we say that it's if clause or the condition clause? Because that clause holds the condition. And the second part is called the main clause. The second part in the sentence is called the main clause. Why do we say the main clause? Because the result comes in the main clause. So the condition comes in the if clause and the main result is shown in the main clause. That is how you divide a sentence into a main clause and the if clause. So I have given you an example here. If it rains tomorrow, we will not come. If it rains tomorrow, we will not come. The condition, if it rains tomorrow, the if clause or the conditional clause. Secondly comes the result, we will not come. If it rains, we are not going to come. So that is called the main clause or the result. Now I'm moving on to the basic structure of the conditional sentences. The basic structure of the conditional sentences. If plus condition plus result. The word if you study hard, the condition, you will get through the exam, the result. So if you study hard, there is this comma, then the result will be you will pass the exam. We write a comma after the condition. What does that mean? So when you want to separate the if clause or the conditional clause from the main clause or from the result, you use this comma in between the two parts. This is the if clause, if you study hard, and this is going to be the result, you will pass the exam. So in between these two, you use a comma in order to separate the two conditions. The two clauses. So you use this comma in between these two. So the other part is the result plus the word if and the condition. There is no change in the meaning, children. There is no change, but the way of presenting the sentence changes. In the first one, the if clause came first. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. The result comes at the end. Now what happened in the second structure is both comes to the either sides. The condition has gone to the end of the sentence. Middle you have the word if, and before that you have the result. The differentiation is this result has come to the bottom, to the beginning of the sentence, and this if clause has gone to the end of the sentence. So when you have this word, now we'll go to an example. You will pass the exam if you study hard. The word if has come to the middle. So dear children, when you want to separate, when you write these conditional sentences, when you want to separate the if clause from the main clause, if the word if comes to the top and in the middle, there should be a comma in order to separate the two clauses at a glance. But in the second structure, you have this word if at the middle. So then there should not be any comma. We don't need any comma. Why? Because at a glance, when you see the word if, then you know it's okay. After the word if, the if clause comes, and at the beginning, the main clause is there. So there is no need of a comma in order to separate the main clause from the if clause, because already the word if is there. So this is the two structures where you can present a conditional sentence. Either the conditional clause can come to the top, then you have to use the comma, then comes the main clause, or if the main clause comes to the top, the word if comes and then followed by the condition. So then there should not be a comma in the middle, right? So now we are moving on to the main part. There are 4 types of conditionals, children. There are 4 types of conditionals. First, we are starting with zero conditional, then conditional type 1, conditional type 2, and conditional type 3. So for the grade 9 syllabus, we will be doing conditional type 1 and conditional type 2. So out of these conditionals, I'll be doing conditional type 1 and conditional type 2. The other 2 conditionals will be done in grade 10 and grade 11. So here are the 2 conditionals that we are going to do, conditional type 1 and conditional type 2. We are moving on to the first conditional. Now, here I have given you an example. First we will start with, look at the sentence given. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. If I go to London, that is in present tense. If I go, look at this word go. If I go to London in present tense, then what is going to happen? You will see the Big Ben, something that is going to happen in the future. So now look at the 2 clauses. The if clause has been presented in simple present tense, and the second clause, that is the main clause where the result comes, will be given in simple present tense. Now we'll move on to the structure. If clause is given in simple present tense. And on the other side, main clause, I have given a set of words. What are these set of words? Now here I have given will see. So other than the word will see, we can either use will, can, may, must plus the verb. So here will see, we can say will see, can see, may see, must see, whatever. According to the meaning of the sentence, you can use whatever the words from this list. Will, can, may and must plus the verb. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. So this sentence, when it comes to the first conditional sentences, it talks about a possible situation. Do you understand? It talks about a possible situation. If you go to London, then you will see the Big Ben. There is a possibility of visiting Big Ben if you go to London. So if you go to London, that is something in present, then you will see the Big Ben. That is a possible situation. So if you go to London, then obviously you can go to the Big Ben. So that is a possible situation. So keep that in mind. When it comes to first conditional type 1, we talk about possible situations. Okay, children, to brief out. So what is highlighted in the first conditional is, you have this present tense in the if clause, and then you have this main clause where the word will, can, may, must and the verb comes, and then we talk about possible situations. Now here I have given the same example. If I go to Buckingham Palace, I can take a photo of the Royal Guard. If I go to Buckingham Palace, if you go to that place, okay, there is a possibility of taking a photograph of the Royal Guard. So that is about a possible situation. So here also, now here, as I said earlier, I can take a photo of the Royal Guard. Now earlier I said, if I go, I will take something like that. But here I have given another example, I can take a photograph. Okay. Now we are moving on to the second conditional. This is something very structural, children. In English language, there are certain exceptions. Even when you take the singular and plural lesson, when changing into plural, there are exceptions. But here in conditional sentences, there is a particular structure. Right? So you need to learn this particular structure clearly. So then the lesson will be so easy for you all. So moving on to the second conditional. Here we'll first move on to the example, like I did earlier. If I were an astronaut, I would travel to spaceship. Now here, if I were, now the word were is given, in simple past tense. And then I would travel. Now earlier we were talking about the if clause as simple present tense, while the main clause comes in simple future. But here it changes. This part, the if clause, has given in simple past tense. And then what has happened to the main clause? The word will has changed into would. I would travel. So here, we'll move on to the structure. If clause is given in simple past tense. The if clause is given in simple past tense. In conditional type 1, please recall, conditional type 1, if clause was given in simple present tense, whereas in the second conditional, the if clause comes in simple past tense. So it's very simple to learn. The second part, main clause, earlier we used will, can, may plus the verb. Now here, the past tense of those words, would, could, might. Will has changed into would, can has changed into could, and may has changed into might, and plus the verb. When it comes to this verb, children, you have to use the infinitive form, that is the verb stem. Say go, visit, try, cry, dance, something like that. The verb stem, the word infinitive, would, could, might, or plus the verb infinitive. So this is how the second conditional sentences are formed. So now when you go to this sentence, if I were an astronaut, if I were, something to do with the past tense, I would travel in the spaceship. If I were an astronaut, if I were, that is, in this conditional, we talk about impossible situations. Impossible situations. You are not an astronaut. So you would travel to spaceship, but the result cannot exist. Why? Because this is something to do with the past tense. The result is impossible. You are imagining. You are imagining the situation. If I had wings, I would fly, something like that, right? So that is your imagining. This is not going to happen in reality. There is no reality here, but you are imagining. You are imagining the situation. That is belong to the past tense. You are just imagining. If I won a lottery, now you have not won it, but you imagine, if I won a lottery, I would have buy a brand new car. I would buy a brand new car. So that is something to do with the past, but you have not won the lottery, right? So this is just you are imagining. You are imagining the situation. So we'll move on to the first one. We talk about, when it comes to conditional type 1, we spoke about possible situations. Right? Now here we talk about imaginary situations. If I had wings, I would fly. So you are imagining the situation. If I were an astronaut, I would travel in the same spaceship. This is not a reality. You are just imagining. You are just thinking. You are imagining the situation. But it's something which is not in exist. Not real. If I traveled, simple past tense. Now see, in the first part. If I traveled in the spaceship. If I traveled, simple past tense. The word traveled is given in simple past tense. I would go to Mars. Would go. The word would is there plus the verb infinitive. The verb stem. The word go. The verb go is given as a verb infinitive. That is called the verb stem. Right? So if I traveled in the spaceship, I would go to Mars. That is something that you imagine. Okay? So that is about second conditional type. Here there's another example for you. If I went to Mars, I would meet a Martian. If I go, you are just imagining the situation. So basically what I wanted to highlight from these various types of examples is conditional type 2 is something that you are imagining. You are imagining the situation. You are imagining that this thing will happen, but something which is not in real. Something that you imagine. It's conditional type 2. So to brief you out, I have given you two simple sentences, children. This is the most easiest sentence that you can keep in mind when learning these conditional sentences. The first thing I have given under conditional type 1, that is, if you study hard, you will pass the exam. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. Now see, if you study hard, the word study is given in simple present tense. So this is an example which you can easily remember. So remember this remember this sentence while you learn this lesson conditionals. This is the most easiest example which you can apply to all the conditionals. Now, when you go to grade 10 and 11, you will learn conditional type 3 as well. For that even, we can apply the same example so that it's easy for you to remember what are the changes in between the three. Right? So, if you study hard, the word study is given in simple present tense, and then you come across this comma, you will pass the exam. If you study hard now, what happens? Are you going to fail the exam? No. If you study hard, you are going to get through the exam. So here it's very simple. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. Now here, If conditional is given in simple present tense. If you study hard now, now you all at home, so if you study hard now, you will pass the exam once you come to the college. Right? So simple. So here will pass is given in future, simple future tense, will plus verb infinitive. So this word I have given you a list of words. Will, you can use either will, can, may, something like that also can be used, right, according to the meaning. So now that is called a possible situation. Yes, you study hard and you pass the exam. That's a possible situation, something that can possibly happen. If you study hard, definitely you are going to get through the exam. Yeah. So we are moving on to the second one. If you studied hard. Now I have directly changed the same thing into conditional type 2 so that you can remember it easily. If you study hard, so when it comes to the conditional type 2, if you studied hard, the word studied is given in simple past tense. Now here it was given in simple present tense, study hard, and here studied hard, something to do with the simple future. Right? You would pass the exam. So you are imagining the situation. If you studied hard, you would pass the exam. If not, you are going to fail the exam. Right? Something. So this is an impossible situation. You are imagining. You are imagining the situation. Conditional type 1, we talk about possible situations. Secondly, we talk about an imaginary situation. That is, you are imagining that if you had studied, if you studied hard, you would pass the exam. Conditional type 2. Simple present tense, studied. Simple past tense, studied. You will pass, simple future. And would pass, the same past tense of this. Will, would. Now, so for an example, if I say you may pass the exam, then you might pass the exam. If you say you can get selected to the team, then you could get selected, something like that. Okay? So, will pass, you can say can pass, may pass here, would pass, could pass, might pass. Okay? So these are the two easiest sentences which you can remember when learning the conditional sentences. So this is the end of the presentation, and now we are moving on to a short exercise under conditional type 1. I have given you a set of examples under conditional type 1 and conditional type 2. You all can move on to your exercises after my explanation. So first to brief out about the first conditionals, I have given you 5 sentences. The first one, if I take, if I blank out tonight, I blank to the cinema. If I go out tonight, within brackets they have given you the word go. So if I go out tonight, I will go to the cinema. That is the second one, first one. If I move on to the second one, if you blank, within brackets get, back late, I blank be angry. So the first one has to be simple present tense. If you get back late, I will be angry. Is that clear? If you get back late, I will be angry. Moving on to the third one. If we blank, not see, a negative formation. Each other tomorrow, we blank each other next week. So not see, we can say do not see. If we do not see, third one, if we do not see each other tomorrow, we will see each other next week. Okay, very simple. So next one, if he blank, the verb stem verb is given as come. If he comes, I will be surprised. Next one, last one. If we blank here, so it has to be wait, simple present tense. If we wait here, we blank be late. We may be late. We can be late. We will be late. Okay, children? Right. So here, just for an example, I have given these 5 sentences for you all. You can do the rest of my examples by looking at the website. So that's all for today, children. Have a blessed stay at home. Hope you understood my lesson. So we'll see you next week. May God bless you, children.